So today we're going to be talking about the split squat and the lunge, and there's lots of variations of those exercises, but really starting with the first thing is that they are not the same exercise. A lot of times they kind of get lumped into the same category. People will say split squat slash lunge, and they're two pretty different movements. And just to get a distinguishing right off the bat, a split squat is going to be, you're going to be set up in a lunge position or a split stance position, and that's kind of why it gets confusing for people. But we're going to have our feet in one place, and we're going to be moving in place. You're not going to pick either of your feet up. And this kind of brings us right to the biggest part of this, which is it's going to be your setup. And so we want to make sure at the bottom, barring other orthopedic factors or specific cases, we're going to want to be aiming for roughly all 90-degree angles here. The knees, the hips, everything should be at a 90-degree angle at the bottom of the movement. And so I usually have people start at the bottom of the movement, kind of get themselves set up here, toes tucked under, and just looking at are we tall here, and do we have our 90-degree angles? From there, it's simply a matter of bracing and driving up from the floor. You'll see a lot of people that will push backwards and really kind of lock out this front leg. That's pushing us in a backward direction, and it's really only using the front leg. Back leg's working a little bit, but primarily we're driving off this front quad and just kind of pushing ourselves backwards. That's a different movement and a different mechanism. We want to train both legs in this position, and that's where we're going to move vertically straight up and down. Now, if we want to, again, bias the quadriceps, we're going to keep an upright trunk, still core brace, so we're not dumping through the lower back. And you may feel a stretch in your hip flexors as you do this. That's probably just a bonus. But we're moving very vertically. If we do take more of a hinged torso angle, I'm going to bias the glutes a bit more, but again, we are still moving vertically using both legs. And that's really, the split squat it's less dynamic than a lunge, and in that case you can load it up heavier. If you are loading it heavier, I would suggest maybe finding something to pad your knee, just because make your life easy, it's not going to get in your way, and if you're bringing your knee all the way to the floor with heavy weight, eventually you may end up in a position you don't like, so let's go ahead and just take care of that now. Ab mat works just fine, rolled up yoga mat, RX pad, anything like that. But kettlebell rack position, 90-degree angle, same. Vertical movement, trying to be nice and smooth. You can drop that weight down to your side. You can bring that weight overhead. If you have an interest in working on that pattern, you can use a barbell. There's lots of ways to load this. As far as the lunge is concerned, it's more of a dynamic movement. It's starting from a 2-foot position, dropping down into the same, essentially, bottom position, and then returning to where we started. So it's more dynamic, it's a little more explosive, and it is going to rely more on one leg more than the other depending on the direction you're moving in. Standard forward lunge, other leg. Theoretically a little more quadriceps heavy, a little more knee dominant. Reverse lunge, same thing but backwards. Dropping down, pressing up. Little more work in the hips, little nicer on the knees. So it really just kind of depends on what you're looking to do there. You can do a variation of a forward back, straight into, a reverse with or without a pause in the middle, just depending on what we're looking to work on. As far as setup in the lunge, you're going to see a lot of people, they're going to take too small a step, and we're gonna run out of room. We're gonna jam ourselves here. We're gonna really have to drive that front knee over those front toes more than we intend to. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But if I get stuck here, my heel comes up, I lose my balance. Similarly, if I take too big of a step, now I end up way out here. I'm overstretched in my back hip. And to bring myself back to the start position, it takes more power, it's less of a coordinated movement. So kind of finding out again, where's our bottom position. Find those 90-degree angles again. And once we have that, a mark or a mental mark of where we're gonna put that foot every time, and just aim for that spot. And you can change that angle slightly if you're looking to load your quads, load your knee a little bit more for various reasons, whether that's rehab or whether that's strength and conditioning purposes. If I let my knee drive forward more, I'm gonna get more forces on that patellofemoral joint. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But if I really don't want that, all I'm gonna do is change my foot position a few inches and keep a vertical shin. From there, drive back. We can alternate, we're still aiming for the same spot. And so that would really be the difference. One's a little more dynamic than the other. One lends itself a little bit more to a heavier loading, that being the split squat. The lunge, there's a little more balance involved, but they're both good movement patterns and different reasons to use them for different people. But as far as your setup, finding those 90-degree angles is probably the most important thing. And then really just going from there, trying to brace your core, drive through the legs, and come to a full upright position.